Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas, on Wednesday, March the 26th, and welcome to our commentary. Well, just a quick note: I have a post over at the American Thinker today, talking about this water battle between Mexico and the United States. It all goes back to a treaty that was signed in 1944 that I didn't know anything about, and now the two countries are arguing about water. And it's an interesting discussion, but I guess as I mentioned in my post, again available at the American Thinker, at least we're talking about something that both sides can talk about and figure it out, and we'll see how we can get it resolved. Apparently, there's been a much worse than expected drought in Mexico, and that has created some water shortages down there. And of course, then there's the situation with the water up here as well. So it's just one of those things. It's one of those things where these things, what can I tell you? They become important issues, and it's primarily for the farmers. The farmers are the ones who are most impacted by this. So I hope that farmers on both sides of the border can figure this out, or the countries can figure this out, so that we can go back to a normal situation. Well, there was a big meeting today in the Congress, a hearing, I should say, about NPR and PBS, and I've got a post about this coming out tomorrow, where I think the GOP majority wants to shut down NPR and PBS, and I agree with it. I've been saying this for years. Now, I used to listen to NPR quite a bit. I used to have it in my office. And part of the reason that, NPR was a valuable addition to your office, 15, 20 years ago, is because we didn't have the internet that we have now. So if you wanted to listen, for example, to a congressional hearing or even news or something like that, an FM station was the best way to do it. And NPR was the only one covering events like that back years ago. But now with the internet, I mean, you can listen to it on the internet, and it's even in some cases better sound, or you can have it in your iPhone or whatever. So the idea that you need to have NPR to reach all of these places that don't have FM coverage is simply not true. More and more people have internet and have access to the internet and other sources. So it's the same with PBS. PBS is the same thing. You don't have to have PBS anymore to reach some of the communities that maybe you did 50, 55 years ago. So I think it's time to shut it down. Just let it go private and put it completely in private hands. Now, the funny thing about it is that the executives at NPR, and we saw this at the hearing today, they keep saying, well, the public funding is only a small portion of how we do things. It's just a small portion. I mean, we don't get that much money from the government. Well, if that's the case, what's the big deal then? Why not just say to the government, hey, we're going to cut ties with you so we can do our own programming, and I'd have to worry about, having to deal with the Congress or whatever. But that's what they always say. But then they keep saying, no, you got to fund us. Well, it's one way or the other. It's one or the other. Either it's not important or it is important. And for my money, I think it's time to let them go, and let them just do their own thing. Now, PBS is the same way. Now, they do have some good programming on Sunday nights. They have these British comedies, these British programs that a lot of people like, and that's fine. But a lot of that stuff can be run privately or through commercial television. I mean, if that many people are watching, I guarantee you're going to get advertisers. That's just the way the business is. If you can show ratings, if you can show numbers, somebody will advertise on your show. That's the nature of the game. So they keep saying that they don't get that much money from the government. Well, if you don't, then just why do you even fight for it? Just let it go and replace that little bit that you get from the government with your own private sources. They should be able to do it. And if there is a demand for this stuff, people will you'll either have sponsors like you do on private television, or you'll have contributors. I mean, they'll figure it out. And they'll be able to run as private networks without having to explain to the Congress what they do, which of course leads me to my next point. One of the big problems with NPR and I guess PBS too, but NPR for sure, is that they are way to the left of where the country is. These are very liberal networks. And all you got to do is listen to the radio programming. And, at one time, as I said, they were far more reasonable. But here lately, they've become very, very much left wing organizations. You may recall there was an executive at NPR who quit. I think he just either resigned or he got fired. I don't know. A couple of years ago, and he wrote this long article about how one-sided everything at NPR is. For example, he mentioned that there were 87 editors and 87 were Democrats, not a single Republican. Now, how does that make any sense? You have a country that over the last 50 years, at least 40 years, going back to the Clinton election of 92, so let's say 30 plus years, you've had basically presidents elected with roughly 50% of the popular vote or a little bit less. So half of the country's voting one way, half of the country's voting the other way, and yet 87-0 is the party membership or the party the party breakdown of the editors at NPR. How do you explain something like that? How do you justify something like that? How do you say half of the country votes one way, the other half of the country votes the other way, which is in reality the way it is, but our editorial staff is going to be 87 Democrats, 0 Republicans? How do you do that? How do you then look at some of their editorial positions when they decided not to cover the famous laptop, or they decided to cover the Russian hoax where they went after Trump? When, everything they cover, everything they focus on is a Democrat talking point. I mean, how do you explain that? They were interviewing, for example, today, the CEO, I guess, of NPR, a lady who was speaking there, and they kept asking her questions and saying, well, did you say this? She goes, no, well, I don't think I said that. Well, yes, you did. Here's the tweet. And they did this with her several times. Now, either she has a very bad memory, and I guess I'll cut her some slack on that, or she has very selective memory, or she's doesn't want to remember. But the fact is that in her past, not very far past, she's been a real progressive politics person. Again, I don't care if she is. It doesn't matter to me as long as the taxpayers are not paying her salary. If she wants to be a progressive and turn NPR into a MSNBC of the radio, go right ahead. It doesn't matter. Most Americans won't watch it or listen to it, but that's what the country's about. You want to be liberal? Go right ahead. Get advertisers to support you? Go right ahead. But don't do it with public funding, and don't insult our intelligence by constantly saying, well, we don't really need that. We don't really need all that money. I mean, you just give us a little bit, but they keep asking for it. Well, if you're just getting a little bit, then, just drop it. Just drop it. Just say, hey, don't give us, we're going to break from the Corporation of Public Broadcasting and we're going to go on our own. That's okay with me. That's probably okay with most Americans. Probably okay with most Americans who really don't want to be supporting a organization like this with public money that is so tilted one way or the other. It just doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm sure you've been watching in the news, all the stuff with this representative Jasmine, I think Crockett is her name. She represents a district here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's basically Dallas, East Dallas, South Dallas. She's been in the news a lot lately because she likes to make news. She loves publicity, and she loves to say all these crazy things. And she said something about Governor Abbott that was very rude. She's made statements about Elon Musk. She's constantly playing the race card. But she's become a real darling of the Democrat Party. She's sort of like the African-American version of Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez. They're both out there becoming the face of the party, and they're gaining a lot of support. The problem is neither one of them is going to win a national election. I mean, this lady Crockett wouldn't even win Texas if she ran for president or governor. I mean, she ran for governor, she wouldn't get a lot of support, or for the Senate either. So we have a situation. We have a situation where, I guess as long as the people in her district keep voting for her, that's all we can do is just let it be and let them live with their representative. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't live in her district. But I will say this, I think it is a shame that whether it's Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez or Jasmine Crockett, that the districts that these people represent, and it's not just them, some of the other members of the squad are in the same situation. They represent districts, frankly, they're not doing very well. Districts that could use a representative in Washington more focused on prosperity and investment, because that's what their districts need. They need better schools. The streets are not safe. And yet these are the people who seem to be obsessed with Elon Musk and with Trump, and especially the race card. I mean, look, there's nothing we can do about it. She gets elected, and that's the way it works. But it would be nice if somebody got elected in that district who actually cared about the district just a little bit more. Well, let me conclude today by saying happy number 81 to Diana Ross. Remember Diana Ross and the Supremes? Diana Ross then had her own solo career, very successful solo career. I think she even made a movie as well. Very, very popular singer, great performer. Had a lot of hits. I guess most of my memories are her songs with the Supremes back in the good old days of Motown. But she was a wonderful performer and had a lot of success. So happy number 81 to Diana Ross. It's hard to believe, but she's 81 years old. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.